Hello students. Okay, so now we will be starting with another chapter, that is your chapter number 4. Now let's discuss 2 or 3 points about this chapter, then we will discuss the concept which we are going to discuss here. Okay, understand. First of all, this chapter number 4 is a very important chapter, okay, from your examination point of view. When I'm saying examination point of view, that means from your CA inter examination, it's an important chapter. So you cannot skip this chapter. Okay. Second thing, okay, this chapter activity based costing system, the concept which you are going to learn in this chapter, okay, it's not difficult concept. Okay, it's just little lengthy concept. I hope you are getting my point. The concept of activity based costing system is bit lengthy. Okay, however, it's not difficult. So what we are going to do now is we are going to discuss the concept like we discussed in case of overhead chapter. Okay, and I told you in case of overhead chapter also that just be patient, okay, and listen carefully each and every step, pay attention. So same thing you have to do here. Okay, it's lengthy, yes, but easy. You just have to pay attention and listen carefully. Okay, so with this, let's start with your chapter activity based costing system. Now understand what happens in case of activity based costing system. This chapter is focused on overheads, but sir, for overheads accounting, how we do the accounting for overheads, we have already seen in chapter number 3. There were different steps for overhead distribution, apportionment, reapportionment, everything we have seen in the chapter number 3 overheads. Then what we are going to do in this chapter 4 activity based costing system with respect to overhead. Understand what we did in chapter number 3 overhead is we absorbed the overheads over our cost units. Absolutely right, sir. For that we use 4 steps: allocation, apportionment, reapportionment, and then absorption. Here also in activity based costing system, we are going to absorb these overheads over the cost units. So that means, sir, what we did in chapter number 3, the same thing we are going to do here, that is absorption. Yes. However, the difference is the way we are going to absorb is bit different. So what you are going to do in this chapter is exactly same what you had done in chapter number 3. The only difference is the way of doing it. The method of doing it is different. That method is known as activity based costing system. But now, sir, why do we need it? We already have one system, absorption costing system. Then why another system? Same thing we are doing with different way. Okay, I'll come to the answer of this question with my example, not right now, but yes, I'll give you a point to think about. Listen very carefully. Okay, many years ago, when especially in case of manufacturing sector, when you manufacture something, okay, the total cost includes, or let's say the total cost has the major part or major component of generally the direct material cost and direct labor cost, because earlier we were not capital intensive sector. The manufacturing sector was much dependent on the labor sector. I hope you will agree with me on this. Okay, so that's why the labor cost was generally more as compared to overheads. Okay, because we were more dependent on the labor force, whether it's direct or indirect labor. Okay, so because of that, okay, your direct labor cost was on a higher side. If you calculate the total cost, in that the direct cost, direct material, direct labor, maybe direct expenses, the percentage of this is generally 60 to 70%, and the proportion of overhead cost in your total cost was very less, around 20-30%. But what happened later on with the advancement of the technology, okay, with the new machines coming into, okay, new machines we imported also. What happened? We started using technology, we started using the machines, equipment. So what, sir? Now when you use machines, equipments, technology, what happens? Your overhead cost gets increased. Definitely with the help of these new technologies, techniques, methods, okay, you are going to save some cost. later on per unit cost, but your overhead cost gets increased. Sir, why? Just let me give you one simple example. If you are using machine in your home, okay, let's say if I ask you, okay, prepare a juice, okay, using your hands, okay, just squeeze the orange by your hand, you can get the juice, okay. But then we started using juicer. So if you are using juicer, you are getting juice. Very good, you are getting juice in very less time, like within 30 seconds. But that will increase one cost for you. Which cost? Sir, electricity cost. The consumption of electricity got increased. So with the use of new technology, new machines, new equipment, new methods, okay, your overhead cost later on gets increased. For example, power consumption, okay, for example, the machines of the maintenance of equipments. Now you need the supervisors also to supervise those machines. Okay, so your indirect labor cost gets increased. So what happens nowadays, okay, in manufacturing sector and also in another sectors, okay, the overhead cost is now more. Now if you just calculate, I mean, in your total cost, what is the proportion of direct cost now and the overhead cost, you will find the overhead cost has slightly increased. It's now around 50-60%. It's more. So don't you think if your overhead cost has increased so much, don't you think you need a system which calculate the overhead cost accurately, which apportion the overhead cost over your cost units in more accurate way, so that we have the total overhead cost, or let's say later on the total cost of my products or service more accurate, and which will make my product or my service more competitive in the market. That's why we have activity based costing system. So that means, sir, the one of the advantage of ABC system is that it calculates the overhead cost in a more accurate way. Absolutely right. And what you need to learn in this chapter is how do we calculate this this overhead cost in a more accurate way. That's it. The role of you, what ICAI expects from you in this chapter is very simple. They expect from you, you should know how do we calculate overhead cost, how do we apportion overhead cost as per activity based costing system. And every student should know this costing system by heart. A very important costing system for accurate allocation of overhead cost. Okay. So with this, what is activity based costing system? It is a system of costing where overhead cost is assigned to activities rather than products or service. If you remember in the absorption costing system in the chapter number 3 overheads, okay, we were reapportioning the overhead cost over the departments, production department, service department, and then from there we absorbed it over our cost unit. However, in activity based costing system, we don't apportion the overhead cost over the departments. We apportion them over the activities. Okay, and what are these activities, why we are apportioning in them, that we will discuss with a simple example. Okay, right now just remember one thing, under ABC system you assign overhead costs over the activities, and from those activities later on ultimately it has to go over the product or service, whatever system you are doing, but first you have to apply it on the activities. Okay, and this ABC system will give you more accurate cost assignment. Okay, the cost which you are assigning using ABC system, using these activities, will give you the accuracy of cost, and I will show you with example that how this accuracy is coming. Okay, so this was just the introduction of your activity based costing system. I hope you got the part, basically what is ABC, activity based costing system. Now, before we move further with the example to understand this activity based costing system, okay, let me show you something, a small diagram to make you guys understood, or to just give you an introduction, a glimpse of the comparison between the traditional system. Sir, what is traditional system? Traditional system was your absorption costing system, the way we allocated, apportion, reapportion the overheads in the previous chapter, and your ABC, that is activity based costing system. Pay attention. See, earlier what we used to do, we used to ascertain our cost. ascertain our, so basically we have two types of cost, a direct cost and indirect cost. Direct cost we know it's traced directly to the product or service. So just ignore this part, direct cost traced directly to product or service, because we are talking about here overheads. Okay. Now the second cost was indirect cost. Indirect cost means, indirect cost means your overhead cost. Okay. Now how do we allocate the indirect cost over our product or service? Sir, in case of traditional costing system, we used to do that with the help of machine hours, labor hours, volume, etc. And obviously before this machine, labor hours, volume, etc. using, you have to do the allocation, apportionment and reapportionment. Now what we do in case of activity based costing system, here we are going to allocate the cost over our product or service, but this time it is based on cost driver. Now sir, what is cost driver? For that you have to wait little bit. Okay. So this is a small diagram just to give you a glimpse, okay, of traditional and activity based costing system, which are the two systems for the overhead accounting. Okay. Thank you. So now we will be discussing your activity based costing systems example. Okay. Now before we proceed with this example, okay, there are some expectations which I have from all of you. Okay, whenever you are watching this video, okay, just pay very close attention to this example. Okay, do not rush to start writing the example or whatever I am saying. Okay, what is important here is you should understand this example, and with the help of this example, how ABC works. First thing. Second thing, you should also understand when this example is over that what is the difference between traditional system. Traditional system means your absorption costing system and the ABC system. So the purpose of this example are two. I hope these two purposes are clear. If not, let me repeat it again. First purpose, you should know after this example, okay, what is this ABC system, how it works. Second thing, the difference between traditional and absorption costing system. So with this, we will start with this example. So pay very close attention. Do not write anything. Once the example is over, what you will be doing, you will be writing this example and everything after that, not right now. Okay. Now let's start and begin. So the comparison between traditional absorption costing system and activity based costing system. Now focus on this example. Okay. So there is a sweet shop. Okay. So we are back with our example of sweet shop, and these are the type of sweets. Okay, these are the type of sweets. Let me write here, type of sweets. Okay, so there is a white sweet, there is a red sweet, and then there is a pink sweet. Which pink? We don't know, just pink sweet. Okay, and this is the total column. So white sweets, red sweets and pink sweets. Total is not a type of sweetener, total is total. Okay. Now after this we have number of packets. That means how many packets we are manufacturing for each type of sweet. Okay, so let me write down the numbers. So for white, the number of packets which we are preparing is 500. For red it is 1000 packet. For pink it is 300 packets. So how many total packets of sweets we are preparing? Sir, 1800. Okay, 500 plus 1000 plus 300. Now in this sweet shop, obviously you will be having laborers who are working to prepare the sweets. That's your direct labor. So the direct labor hours at the rate of 0.5 per packet. That means in order to prepare one packet, 0.5 hours are required. 0.5 hours means half an hour. Okay, in order to prepare one packet, how many hours we need? 0.5 hours we need. So for white, for sweet white, how many total hours we need? Sir, 0.5 into 500. 0.5 into 500. So that means 250 hours. For sweet red, 0.5 into 1000 packets. So this will be 500 hours. And for pink, 0.5 into 300 packets, so 150 hours. Therefore, what is the total labor hours we need? So 250 plus 500, that is 750. 750 plus 150, that is 900 direct labor hours. So 900 labor hours are required if you want to prepare total 1800 packets. Simple, very simple so far. Now focus, okay? Sugar, okay, handling cost. Now understand this. What is this sugar handling cost? I hope you know sugar. Yes sir, we know sugar. Okay. Now in order to prepare sweets, whether it's white, whether it's red, or whether it's pink, do you need sugar? Yes sir. Without sugar, how these sweet shops can prepare the sweets? Okay. So we know what is sugar. Now what do you mean by handling? Okay, so handling here means to load something, to unload something, to carry something from one place to another place with proper care. That is handling. Okay, so now we know what is sugar, we know what is handling. Cost we already know. Now let's read these three words together. Sugar handling cost. So do you think in a sweet shop, in order to handle the sugar, you have to incur some cost? Yes sir. In a sweet shop, they need sugar. Do they need sugar in grams? No sir, they need sugars in kilograms. They need abundance of sugar. So obviously they must be giving some orders to their suppliers to deliver sugar. So when they deliver sugar, then you have to, first you have to load them, then you have to unload them, you have to carry. Okay, so there is a person who carries the sugar with them. Okay, so in all these things, there is a cost which you have to bear. So total sugar which you are going to handle is 1000 kilogram. So what is your total sugar handling cost? I said total, not for white, red or pink individually. So total sugar handling cost is coming rupees 10,000. That means we are incurring 10,000 rupees on handling the sugar. So whatever person is handling this sugar, taking care of the sugar in the godown, okay, you are paying them 10,000. Just understand it in that way. Okay. Okay sir. Now a simple question which I am going to ask you. Is this sugar handling cost of 10,000 is a overhead for you, or it's a direct material or direct labor cost? Now many of you might be thinking, sir, it's a direct material cost. Let me give clarity on this point. This is the handling cost of sugar, not the sugar's cost. You understood now? This is the cost of handling the sugar, loading, unloading, carrying the sugar. So this 10,000 rupees is not the purchase cost of your raw material sugar. This is just for handling it. Okay, so this is an overhead cost. Okay, this is an overhead cost. I hope so far it's clear. So what we have seen till now is that we have three types of sweets, white, red and pink. We know the number of packets we are manufacturing, and we know the total labor hours which are required sweet wise and also in total. And then we came to know that we have one overhead cost which is 10,000 rupees. Now if I ask you, okay, again if I ask you a simple question, apportion this 10,000 rupees over these three products, three types of sweets, apportion this overhead cost of 10,000 rupees over these three sweets, white, red and pink, what you will say, or how you are going to apportion it. Now you must be saying, sir, we can apportion it on the basis of, not apportion, sorry, we are going to absorb it. Okay, we already know our total overhead cost, so you can skip the steps like allocation and apportionment, reapportionment. So sir, what we have to do now, we just have to absorb it over these three products. And for absorption, we saw 6 methods. So sir, we can use, on the basis of number of packets, or maybe on the basis of direct labor hours, we can apportion. So what I'm going to do, I am apportioning it on the basis of direct labor hours. Okay, I hope this is clear. So in order to apportion, in order to absorb it over different products, okay, what we need to calculate, sir, we need to calculate predetermined overhead absorption rate. So whenever you are writing this, once the example is over, please write the full forms. So what is going to be my predetermined overhead absorption rate? Sir, it's very simple. The total overheads 10,000 divided by total labor hours, which is 900. Therefore, my overhead absorption rate per labor hour is coming 11.11. Okay, so that means on 1 labor hour I am absorbing 11.11 rupees of overheads. So now can we calculate that how much overhead cost, how much this sugar handling cost will go on white, red and pink individually? Yes sir, that is the purpose of this rate. Okay, so I'll write here. So sugar handling cost 11.11 is per labor hour, and what is the total labor hours for white? 250. So multiply this with 250. Simple, we are doing nothing new right now. Okay, we already did all these things in the previous chapter, but in order to understand the activity based costing, this is very important that you should understand this first. Okay, so I just multiplied it with 500 and 150. Now let's calculate how much this is coming. So it's coming 2778. Okay, so out of 10,000 rupees of sugar handling cost, we have absorbed 2778 over the sweet white product. How much on red? 11.11 into 500, so 4 times 5. Okay, and how much for product or sweet pink? 11.11 into 150, so that is coming 1667. Okay, after rounding it off. So you can just take total of these three, it should be 10,000. Okay, so yes, that's coming 10,000. So this is done. We have done the absorption over our different products. Yes sir, that's done. Simple. So now it's clear to us, listen very carefully, it's clear to us that on product white, how much we are absorbing? 2778. How much on product red? So 4 times 5, 5,555 rupees. And how much on product pink? So on product pink, 1667. Okay, now pay attention, listen very, very carefully. Now let's see the same example but with different perspective, and once we are done with this same example with different perspective, we will compare it with what we did earlier. Okay, so how much was our sugar handling cost? 10,000 rupees. Very good. How many types of products we have? So we have 3 types of product. You can see white, red and pink. So these are the types of products, or you can write sweets. Okay, very good. Number of packets, number of packets were 500, 1300. Okay, so 500, 1000 and 300. Okay, sugar per packet. Now sir, what is this sugar per packet? Now understand and pay very, very close attention. Okay, so what is this sugar per packet? It means the requirement of sugar, the material, okay, for 1 packet of sweet. Now here the requirement of sugar per packet is 1, here it is 0.30 and here it is 0.666. It's kilograms. Okay, kilograms. Okay, so how much total sugar we need for preparing 500 packets of white? Sir, 500. For preparing 1000 packets of red? Sir, 300. Preparing 300 packets of pink, 300 into 0.666, so that's coming after rounding off 200. I hope this is clear. Let's go through it once again. What was my sugar handling cost? 10,000. 3 types of sweets we have: white, red, pink. How many number of packets we are preparing for these 3 sweets? Sir, 500, 1300. What is the sugar requirement per packet? 1.3.666. So what will be the total sugar we need for 500, 1000 and 300 packets? 500, 300 and 200. What I did, I multiplied these two numbers. Okay, I hope this is clear, the total sugar requirement. Now understand. Okay, now let me ask you a very simple question. Okay, pay attention on this question because this is the most important question. Okay, if you really want to understand this concept. Okay, the question is, after seeing these 3 rows and these 4 columns, yes, can you tell me which sweet out of white, red and pink is having the maximum sugar? Okay, so sir, what was the total sugar? See, 1000 kilogram was the total sugar. Okay, out of this 1000, okay, which sweet is using or consuming the maximum sugar? Okay, you will say, sir, that is sweet white. Sweet white is consuming 50% of the total sugar. 50% of that 1000 is coming 500. Clear this simple question? Okay. Now another question. This is very important. So we know that out of these three sweets, sweet white is consuming maximum sugar. Okay. Now tell me, out of these three sweets, okay, out of these three sweets, which sweet should have the highest sugar handling cost? Sugar handling cost is your overhead. Yes, sir. I am asking to you, out of these three types of sweets, which sweet should have the highest, should get the highest sugar handling cost? You will say, sir, again the sweet white. Now understand and listen very, very carefully. Why this white? Why this sweet white should have the highest handling cost? Listen now. So we are incurring 10,000 rupees of handling cost on 1000 kilogram of sugar. Okay, sir. Out of 1000 kilogram of sugar, 500 kilograms of sugar we are using for white. So if you think logically, okay, the 5,000 rupees of sugar handling cost, that is the 50% of this 10,000, should go over white only. Because see, you are preparing three sweets, white, red and pink. You want to calculate their total overhead cost. What we did in the previous system, pay attention, in this system our cost was 10,000. We apportion this cost over these three sweets. Yes, sir, using labor hour basis, and the labor hours are highest, see, for red. So automatically on red, the highest overhead out of 10,000 will be apportioned. But later on, you came to know, okay, what you came to know? That the highest raw material, that is the sugar, you are consuming for white. So don't you think the cost which is related to sugar, which has been incurred for handling the sugar, should go maximum on white only? See, I'm not talking here about from calculation perspective, just from simple logical perspective. I'm just discussing the logic. Okay, I have three sweets. Okay, these three sweets, white, red and pink. I have absorbed 5,555 rupees on red as my sugar handling cost. Why? Because it has the maximum labor hours as per the traditional system. But pay attention, this sugar handling cost depends on what? Does your sugar handling cost depends on how much laborers are working in your factory? Does your sugar handling cost depends how many labor hours your laborers are giving you for preparing these three types of sugar? No, sir. Your sugar handling cost depends how much weight of sugar you are carrying. Let's say that you are carrying total 2000 kilogram of sugar. Don't you think this 10,000 will be more? Yes, sir. Now let me give you another example. Let's say you are handling zero sugar. You are handling zero sugar. What will be your sugar handling cost? Zero. There will be no handling cost if there is no sugar. So one thing is very crystal clear to us here, that this handling cost of sugar doesn't depend on labor hours. How much laborers are working in the factory or go down wherever. It doesn't depend on them. It depends on the weight of sugars. And out of total 1000 kilogram of weight, which sweet is consuming the highest weight? White. So don't you think the maximum part of this sugar handling cost should be absorbed over white? Yes, sir. That is the concept of activity based costing system. Understand, in the traditional costing system, what we did, sir, we simply absorb the total overheads on the basis of labor hours. So what we are saying indirectly is that my sugar handling cost depends on labor hours. If my labor hours will increase, my handling cost will change. If my labor hours are decreasing, my handling cost will change, because my handling cost, material handling cost, depends on labor hours. I am dividing with that. However, when we digged little deeper, we came to know that handling cost doesn't depend on labor hours. It depends on the weight of your material, weight of your sugar. So it should be apportioned. It should be apportioned, this handling cost, on the basis of the weight of your sugar. I hope this point is clear. Pay attention. Do not write anything. Now what I am going to do, I am going to calculate overhead apportion rate. Sir, again, yes, in this system also we calculate overhead apportion rate. Pay attention. What is your total overhead cost? Sir, 10,000. Now under this system, ABC system, on what basis you are going to absorb sugar handling cost? Sir, on the basis of weight of sugar, which is 1000 kilogram. So on each kilogram of sugar, how much overhead cost is going to be allotted? Sir, rupees 10 per kg. That means on one, if I am handling, listen very carefully, if I am handling, okay, if I am handling 1 kg of sugar, okay, rupees 10 of handling cost is being incurred. So for sweet white, for product white, okay, how much sugar I am consuming? 500. So how much should go over white, the overhead cost? Sir, 500 into 10, that is rupees 5,000. Here 300 into 10, that is rupees 3,000. 200 into 10, that is rupees 2,000. So out of 10,000 rupees of sugar handling cost, 5,000 will be absorbed over white, 3,000 on red and 2,000 on pink. Now let's make a comparison. In the previous system, how much we gave to white? 2778. Now in this system, ABC system, how much we are giving to white? Sir, 5,000. So don't you think this is going to impact the cost of sugar? Sorry, this is going to impact the cost of your sweet, your product white. Yes, sir, it is going to impact this cost. Sir, the cost is going to increase now. Now you must be thinking, sir, we are increasing the cost. No, we are not increasing the cost. We are calculating the cost accurately. Yes, it's increasing, but it's the accurate way. It is more logical way. Now focus on product red, the sweet red. How much under the old system? 555. So your product red, I think, is going to be the most costliest for you. Correct? Okay. However, see, under ABC system, only 3,000 you are giving to red. So automatically what will happen now? The cost of sweet red will decline. This sweet red will become more competitive in the market because its cost has declined. Automatically the selling price will also decline. Now the last sweet, that's pink, 1667, under ABC 2000, almost same, so that's fine. So that is the purpose of activity based costing system. Okay, what we do under activity based costing system, we absorb the overhead on the basis of activity. Okay, see, read this line. A system of costing where overhead cost is assigned to activities. Listen very carefully. The overhead activities, the overhead cost, this is your overhead cost, and we have assigned this overhead cost on the basis of what? Sir, on the basis of weight, on the basis of this. Pay attention. So this sugar handling, okay, this sugar handling is your activity. And what is the cost of this activity? This is 10,000. This is known as cost pool. Cost pool means the total cost for the activity. Okay, which I mean this cost pool is generally given to you in the question itself. So sugar handling is my activity. Okay, cost of sugar handling is 10,000. So this is my cost pool. Now answer this question. Okay, this sugar handling cost depends on what? Sir, it depends on how much weight of sugar we are carrying for individual product. So these 200, 300 and this 500 is known as cost driver. Sir, why it is known as cost driver? Because this weight is driving the cost of sugar handling. If now just imagine if it's not 1000, or let's say suppose it's 600 here, 600 into 10, it will become 6000. See, cost changed. So that means your sugar handling cost depends on what? weight of sugar. So weight of sugar is known as cost driver. So in the activity based costing system, we allocate the overhead cost on the basis of activities using the cost driver. That is the entire concept of ABC costing system. Okay, so now what you have to do, okay, you have to write this this system. This was your traditional system, which is known as absorption costing system. Okay, and this was your activity based costing system. So we discussed what is the difference. We made a comparison between both the systems, and I show you. See, comparison doesn't mean that which cost is increasing, which cost is no. It means the ABC helps you in the accurate costing. Now that accurate costing could be on a higher side, could be on a lower side. That depends. This is what we have to do in the ABC system. So please write both the ABC and the traditional system on your note.
आई होप जिस एक्सपेक्टेशन के साथ आपने इस वीडियो को देखना शुरू किया था वो एक्सपेक्टेशन आपकी पूरी हो रही है, और जो भी कॉन्सेप्ट्स आप क्लियर करना चाहते थे, जिस टॉपिक में आप कमांड चाहते थे अपने रिस्पेक्टिव एग्जाम के लिए, वो आप इस वीडियो के थ्रू फुलफिल कर पा रहे हैं। यहाँ मैं आपको एक छोटी सी इन्फॉर्मेशन देना चाहूँगा कि हमारे सभी पेड कोर्सेज जो हैं वो आपके रिस्पेक्टिव एग्जाम्स के अवेलेबल हैं ऑन द वेबसाइट 𝐕_scholars.in, जिसका लिंक भी आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में प्रोवाइड किया गया है। आई विल जस्ट रिक्वेस्ट यू कि आप सोचिए कि फ्री कॉन्टेंट में अगर इतना दम है तो पेड कॉन्टेंट में हमने क्या क्या चीज़ें आपको दे रखी होंगी। एक बार आप जाके हमारी वेबसाइट ज़रूर विजिट करें 𝐕_scholars.in, और आप विश्वास मानिए नर्सरी के स्कूल से भी कम फीस पर हमने आपको वीडियो लेक्चर्स जो है आपके एग्जाम के लिए प्रोवाइड करवा रखे हैं, एंड मच ऑफ प्रीमियम क्वालिटी। थैंक यू सो मच।
Now we'll see a simple example on ABC system. Okay, in the previous recording we have already discussed the concept of activity based costing. Okay, what is an activity, what is a cost pool we have discussed, what is the cost driver we have discussed, what is this cost driver rate we have also discussed. Okay, so and we saw this example of sugar handling. Okay, I hope you remember. Now we are going to a simple example. Okay, that and we are going to connect this example with our concept. Okay, so just pay attention, and once I am done with solving this, okay, please write down this question on your notebook and also the solution. So what is given to us is the activity. So you can see we have three activities. Okay, the first activity is material handling, and its cost is 10,000. Then we have inspection cost. Okay, cost is 6,000. Then we have setup cost. Cost is 4,000. Total overhead cost is 20,000 rupees. Now we are already given what is the cost driver. So your material handling driver is batches of material. Total batches of material, which is cost driver total, is 50. Inspection cost driver is number of inspection, which are 30. Setup cost driver is number of setups, which are 20. Now here we have three products. Okay, product A, product B, and product C. Now product A is using 20 batches of material out of 50. Product B is using 15 batches of material out of 50, and product C is using 15 batches of material out of 50. So you can see the total is 50. I hope this is clear. Now product A is having 15 number of inspection out of total 30 inspection. Product B is having 10 inspection, and product C is having 5. So total is 30. Okay, so basically this is the bifurcation of this cost driver total. Then product A, B, and product C is having number of setups 10, 5, and 5. Total is 20. So here total is 20. I hope this is clear. Now what we need to do in this question is calculate the overhead cost. We need to calculate the overhead cost, but sir, we already know the overhead cost, which is 20,000 rupees. Correct. However, we need to calculate the overhead cost for our products A, B, and C. This is my total overhead cost. I need to divide this total overhead cost over my three products A, B, C using activity based costing system. Okay, so now let's see how we are going to approach this problem. So the first thing which we need to calculate here, see, try to understand that how I am approaching this question. Okay, so in order to calculate the overhead cost, what you need to know, sir, we need to know the activities, their cost pools, their cost drivers. Now activity is given in the question, cost is given in the question, cost driver is given in the question. So what we need to do now, the first and the most important thing is we need to calculate our cost driver rate. And why do we need to calculate cost driver rate? So that using this cost driver rate, okay, using this cost driver rate, we can absorb the overheads over our three products, that is product A, B and C. Now let's go back to our example, the concept which we discussed. How do we calculate cost driver rate? Pay attention. The sugar handling was my activity, the cost was 10,000, and what was the total of cost driver? What was the cost driver? The weight of sugar, which was 1000 kilogram. How did we calculate the cost driver rate? Cost divided by cost driver total. So 10,000 divided by 1000 kilograms. So rupees 10 per kg was my cost driver rate. Now same thing we are going to do here in this example for these three activities. Okay, so pay attention how I am solving this. So first I will write what is my activity. Okay, then I will write the cost of that activity. Then I will write the cost drivers total. Okay, cost drivers total of that activity, and then I will calculate the cost driver rate for that activity. Okay, so let's solve this. Do not write anything. Once I am done, then only you can write down. Okay, so the first activity is material handling activity. Do not write short forms when you will write the full forms only. Second activity was the inspection cost, and third was setup. Correct? Yes sir. Now let's see what was the cost of these activities. It was 10,000, 6,000 and 4,000. Okay, so 10,000, 6,000 and 4,000. What was the driver total? So the driver's total was 50, 30 and 20. Now if you want to add one more column here with the name of the driver, what was the driver's name? Okay, that is the batches of material, the number of inspection, number of setups you can add. Okay, so driver's total is 50, 30 and 20. So now how I'm going to calculate my cost driver rate? Remember in the sugar handling example, we took the cost and we divided it by the driver. So I'll write the formula here, cost driver rates formula, cost of activity divided by activities drivers total. Okay, now what is the cost of first activity? Sir, the cost of first activity is 10,000 rupees. Very good. What is the activity driver? So activity driver was batches of material. See this, batches of material. And what is the activities driver total? Sir, it is 50. Therefore, what will be my cost driver rate? So 10,000 divided by 50. So that is coming rupees 200. Rupees 200 per batch of material. Do not forget to write this part. 200 per batch of material. That means on one single batch, I mean whenever we handle one single batch of material, okay, we incur 200 rupees of cost. Okay, now once again let's go to the concept and see we have done the same thing. We calculated rupees 10 per kg, okay, of sugar handling cost. So that means when we handle 1 kg of sugar, we incur 10 rupees of handling cost. Same thing I have done here, and now I'm going to do the exactly same thing for second activity, that is inspection. So what is the cost of inspection? So cost of inspection is 6,000. What is the driver's total? 30. So 6,000 divided by 30 will give me again rupees 200, okay, per inspection. That means whenever we do one inspection, we incur 200 rupees of inspection cost. Now let's deal with the third activity, which is a setup cost. So what is my setup cost? 4,000. What is my number of setups? 20. So this will give me again 200 rupees. Okay, so this is just a coincidence that all are coming exactly same. Okay, so rupees 200 per setup. Now understand what does this mean? So this means that whenever we do one setup, whenever we set up our machine just one time, we incur 200 rupees of setup cost. I hope this is clear. This is your cost driver rates. Now once you calculate your cost driver rate, okay, see the requirement. We need to calculate the overhead cost for 3 products. Now we will calculate the overhead cost. Okay, pay attention. So calculation of overhead cost. Okay, this is our main objective of this question, and just focus that how I am calculating it. So we have three products, okay, product A, product B and product C. We need to calculate overhead cost. And how do we calculate overhead cost under activity based costing system? We use the cost driver rates. Now pay attention. Material handling. This is my first overhead. I need to know what is my material handling cost, okay, for product A, B and C. This is what I need to know. Okay, now how I am going to approach this? Pay attention. What is my material handling cost total? Sir, 10,000. And what is my material handling cost per batch of material? 200. Now see, for product A, how many batches of material we are using? Sir, 20. For product B, 15. For product C, 15. So if my material handling cost is rupees 200 per batch of material, okay, and I am using 20 batches of material, and I am having 20 batches of material for product A, what will be the inspection material handling cost that will be absorbed over product A? So 20 batches of material into rupees 200 per batch of material. For product B, 15 batches of material into 200. For product C, 15 into 200. That's it. This is how we absorb the overheads under activity based costing system. Okay, so this was 20, 15, 15. Okay, now after this, okay, I write the calculation in some time. First, let me write down this. Second is our inspection cost. Okay, second is our inspection cost. What was the cost driver rate for inspection? It was 200 only. And what was the number of inspections for individual product? It was 15, 10 and 5. So my inspection cost is rupees 200 per inspection. And how many inspections we have? For product A, 15. For product B, it was 10. For product C, it was 5. And what is the rate? 200 per inspection. 200 per inspection into 200 per inspection. That's it. Third cost is my setup cost. Same, exactly same way we are going to do this. So what is the cost driver rate for setup cost? 200 rupees per setup. And how many setups for individual products A, B and C? You can see here 10, 5 and 5 setups. Okay, so my setup cost driver rate is 200 rupees per setup, and number of setups are 10, 5 and 5 into rupees 200 per setup multiplied by rupees 200 per setup multiplied by rupees 200 per setup. That's it. Now let's make the calculations and complete this question. So 20 into 200 will give you 4,000 rupees. 15 into 200 will give you 3,000 rupees. And 15 into 200 will give you 3,000 rupees. So this is the amount of overheads. Okay, 4,000, 3,000 and 3,000 which you have absorbed on your product ABC. Okay, this is the cost of material handling using ABC system. Now just do one thing. This is a cross check. Take a total of this absorbed overheads. So 4 plus 3, 7 plus 3, 10,000. So how much you have total overhead which you have absorbed? How much total material handling cost you have absorbed? 10,000. Now just check that what is the total of your material handling cost? 10,000. So these two numbers, okay, the absorbed cost and the cost given in the question, it should match, and it will match if you have done correctly. I hope this is clear. So this will be 3,000. This will be 2,000, 1,000. Take total. This is 6,000. Here 2,000, 1,000, 1,000, total is 4,000. Okay, so total overheads 10,000, 6,000, 4,000 which we have absorbed our product on our product ABC. You can see 10,000, 6,000 and 4,000 are absorbed on your product ABC using activity based costing system. So what you need to do is, whenever you solve any activity based costing question, if cost driver rates are not given in the question, first calculate cost driver rate. This should be your priority. Okay, once you calculate your cost driver rate, using that cost driver rate, find out that how much cost of each activity, okay, how much cost of each activity will be absorbed over your product using the driver rate. Okay, so I hope this is clear now. Okay, what we did in this question. So now we'll see the meaning of some important terms which are used in this chapter of activity based costing system. Okay, so the first term is what do you mean by activity? So activity refers, okay, to an activity that incurs cost. Okay, so an activity is something which has some cost associated over it. Okay, let's go back to our example. So in this example, what was the activity? Sir, the activity was sugar handling. Now when you handle sugar, the person who is handling it, maybe loading, unloading, you must be paying some wages to them. That's your handling cost. Now you are also storing that sugar somewhere, storage cost, handling cost. You are transporting the sugar from one place to another, handling cost. Okay, so what is activity? Sir, activity means something which involves cost. Here that activity is sugar handling. Okay, now what do you mean by cost object? Pay attention. Cost object is an item for which cost measurement is required. Now in this example, whose cost we are measuring? Sir, we already know the cost of sugar handling 10,000. So we are not measuring the sugar handling cost. We are measuring what is the cost of these products, white, red and pink. Okay, that is what known as your cost object. Okay, so cost objects are generally for which we measure the cost. Now it could be any product, it could be your customer also, for which you can calculate the cost. Now let's see the third term, which is cost driver, a very important term in activity based costing system. So cost driver is basically the factor that changes the cost of an activity. Now in this example, the activity is sugar handling. The cost is 10,000 rupees. Now this 10,000 rupees of cost will be allocated to over your products, which are cost objects. Okay, now how much of this 10,000 will be allocated over sweet white, sweet red and sweet pink depends on this, depends on the raw material, the sugar they required. So this sugar, okay, this is your cost driver, because how much cost is going to over product white, red and pink depends on how much sugar kilograms they are having. If these changes, these number changes, the cost will automatically change. So cost depends on this driver. Okay, that is known as your cost driver, that causes the changes in the cost of an activity. Okay, now understand that these cost driver, okay, so there are generally two types of cost drivers. So there are two types of cost drivers. Please write this down on your notebooks. The first type of cost driver is known as resource cost driver, and the second type is known as your activity cost driver. Okay, now what is the difference and what is the meaning of this resource and this activity cost driver? It's very simple. See what happens in case of resource cost drivers. We check or we see that how much resource is consumed on particular activity. Okay, on particular activity, how much resources we are assuming. And in case of activity cost driver, we check that what is the frequency or the quantity, not the word quantity, what is the frequency of activity. Okay, now let me give you two simple examples to have a good understanding of this resource cost driver and your activity cost driver. Understand? Okay, now I hope you remember this material handling activity. Okay, now what is this material handling activity? To handle the material, okay, to take the material from one place to another. Now this material handling activity and this material handling cost depends on what? Sir, material handling cost depends on weight of material. Weight of material. Am I right? Yes sir, you are right. The material handling cost depends on how much weight you are carrying. So here the cost driver of this material handling activity is weight of material, and this weight of material is your resource. So how much resource you are consuming, okay, how much resource you are consuming on a particular activity, okay, your cost will depend on that. Now in case of activity cost driver, this one, let me give you another example for this. Do you know the distribution cost? Yes sir, we have learned distribution cost. So basically distribution cost means to distribute your finished product to your customer. So you can say like carriage outward, okay, that will be covered in distribution cost. Storing of finished goods, okay, that is also a distribution cost. Now what will be the cost driver of distribution cost? Okay, so you can say the number of customers. The more customers you will have, the more distribution cost you need to incur. The less customers you have, the less distribution cost you will incur. So here the cost driver is number of customer. So this number of customer is known as, I mean, this is your cost driver, but this is your activity cost driver, because here the number is given, the frequency of this driver is given. Okay, let me write down, change it here. This is not frequency of activity, this is frequency of driver. Okay, so what is the difference between resource cost driver and activity cost driver? In resource cost driver, the cost drivers will have the resources. We will see that how much resources we are consuming, like weight of material. In case of activity cost driver, what we will see, the frequency, the counting, the number of driver. That is the main difference. Okay, so I hope you have written this down on your notebook. Okay, now the last term is cost pool. So it's very simple. Cost pool basically means the group of various individual cost item. Now if you remember, we had already discussed that when we were discussing activity. What I told you, that activity is sugar handling. Now in that sugar handling, okay, in that sugar handling there are different costs which were incurred. For example, wages of the labor, okay, for example some storage cost, for example some transportation cost. So these different individual cost items together, how much they are? So 10,000. That is known as cost pool. Okay, so these are some important terms which I wanted to discuss with you. Okay, so now let's quickly see some examples. Okay, some examples of activities, cost pools and their cost drivers. See, this is very, very important. In case of activity based costing system chapter, you should know, you should understand basically what is this activity, what is their cost and what is their drivers. But don't worry, you don't have to remember, only few you have to remember, and generally the activity's name, their cost and their drivers are given in the question itself. Okay, but for understanding, let's quickly go through it. So first activity is your ordering and receiving material. So when you order material, you incur some cost. When you receive material, you incur some cost. Okay, so this ordering and receiving of material is your activity, and it has some different cost items associated with it. That is known as activity cost pool. Now this ordering and receiving of material depends on what? The cost of ordering and receiving material, okay, depends on what? What is the factor that causes change in the cost of this activity? That is your cost driver, and that is number of purchase orders. The more purchase orders are there, the more will be ordering and receiving cost. Okay, next one is setting up machine. So when you set up a machine, that is another activity, and there are different costs associated with it. So the cost driver is number of setups. If the number of setups are more, okay, if the number of setups are more for a particular product, what will happen? The more setup cost will go to that product. So setup, number of setups is here driver. Okay, machining cost, machine hours. Assembling cost, number of parts which you are assembling. See, assembling means what? When you assemble different parts, when you get together different parts. So how much cost is going to incur? Depends on how many parts you are assembling for a particular product. If the parts are more, the more assembly cost will be allocated to that product. Inspection and testing cost depends on number of inspection, number of tests you are doing. And painting cost depend on number of parts. The more parts, the more painting cost will be allocated. Supervising cost depends on direct labor hours. Okay, now let's see some more examples on cost drivers. Okay, so these drivers, these drivers also you have to remember. Okay, so business functions and their cost drivers. So research and development. So if you have research and development, any cost related with research and development, the drivers will be number of research projects you are having and the personnel hours on a project. Okay, so on the basis of how many research projects you are handling, you can simply absorb, okay, your research and development cost, and also on the basis of how many personnel hours are delivered on a particular project. Now, design of product, service and procedures. So basically they are talking about the designing cost here. So that can be absorbed using a cost driver. Number of products in design, number of parts per product, and number of engineering hours. Now, if you have any cost related with customer service, okay, so the number of service calls made, number of products serviced, and hours spent on servicing the product. So very good cost driver, these three. Okay, you can choose any one of these cost driver, but generally what happens in case of activity based costing, when you get a question, a practical question, okay, they will give you the cost driver. Unless and until you get a question, a theory question in your exam about activity cost, about these cost driver, then you have to remember this. Now, in case of marketing, the number of advertisement, number of sales personnel, sales revenue, and in case of distribution cost, the number of units distributed, the number of customers. Okay, so these are some business functions, their cost associated with them, and the cost drivers based on which the cost depends. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So I would suggest please go through this, okay, and just remember the cost and their related drivers. Okay.